By the way, I've started the recording, but I was just saying, per our discussion, I'm recording the audio of this interview, and my friend Chris Cella, with the Chrisinformation Podcast, you're going to send me the complete video file, including the audio, obviously, within about 24 hours from the time this interview is being done, right? You agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Yes.
And sorry, you were saying something about a monologue. Hey, I have a quick request also. Do you mind, of the 30 minutes, if I take the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes to say something? If you're okay with that, if not, that's fine as well. It's your show, my friend.
First 3 minutes to say what?
To give context to the situation of my presidential campaign. And then you can ask me whatever questions you want for the remaining time.
You need 3 minutes to do that?
Approximately.
Can I give you a minute at the rip off the top?
Let's do this. I'll just do a quick introduction in like 30 seconds, and then we'll just head straight into the Q&A. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
So what I'll do is I'm going to open with the monologue, and then I'm going to introduce you and say, before we begin the interview, you had something you wanted to say.
Okay.
When I feel like I want to start speaking, I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah, you can cut me off anytime, dude. It's your show, but obviously I have freedom of speech, right?
No, I'm trying to give you what you want, but I'm just letting you know that you may not be able to get out everything that you want to say. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I will preface that by saying, or I think preface is the right word, but I'll basically say I still believe in the freedom of speech, so I will still stick to that. But it's your show, as always, and as always, my friend, you can ask me whatever question you want, open book, my friend.
Cool.
Awesome, dude.
All right. So, let's get rolling.
Let me know when you start recording.
Welcome back. All right. Welcome back to the Chrisinformation Podcast. We are officially in the teeth of the 2026 midterms. We're going to talk all about that and what comes after that with a gentleman who is seeking the highest office in the land. We're going to do that right after this. Free Vulture, which is TV news outlet. Chris Cella. Before we on Capitol Hill and from the halls of Congress, is on top of all the stories. Alright, so it has been 2 years, almost nearly 2 years, since President Trump has taken office, and Congress has not really done much. They passed the Lake and Riley Act, they did pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, but aside from that, it's pretty much been paralysis. And, call me crazy, but the Save America Act, which essentially says that every person voting in our elections is a member or a citizen of our country, sounds like the bedrock for any basic civilization, especially a democratic republic. I mean, there are third world countries allotted that we are not, but we still cannot get that bill through Congress. It sits in the Senate, where it has sat for multiple weeks, and the Republican Party is, as usual, making plenty of promises. It's midterm season, which means every politician is currently rediscovering their love for the working class and promising the moon. But as we look ahead to 2028, the conversation is beginning to change a little bit. We were promised sweeping action, yet here we are. The mass deportations feel more like mass delays. The Epstein files rollout had all the transparency of a brick wall. And we are currently embroiled in not a war, but a war with Iran that nobody voted for. So voters are starting to ask if campaign promises might have just been campaign suggestions. So joining me now is a man who hopes to succeed Trump in 2028. He's running for president. His name is Gary Barve, and he joins me now. And before I ask you any questions, Gary, I know there was something off the top that you wanted to let people know about your campaign, so I'll give you the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic, Chris. Hey, I just want to say this great honor for me to interview with you with the Chrisinformation Podcast, and to all the incredible patriotic viewers and listeners in the greatest and the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, that are listening in, and to this incredible Chrisinformation Podcast. I just want to say that Chris and I met, I think for the first time at the CPAC 2026 event in Dallas, Texas, a few days back, and he has given me the immense honor and opportunity to interview with him. And I just want to say this, in the introduction video that you just displayed on screen, my friend Chris, I saw Matt Gaetz, and obviously Matt Gaetz and I met a few years back, I don't know if he remembers it, but in Florida, and then again in Crestview. And obviously you used to work with his press team, and Matt Gaetz is a really nice guy. And I just want to also say what's that?
I was saying, yeah, Matt is a great guy.
Yeah, fantastic guy, and
both in Congress and at OAN.
Yeah, fantastic. I was just going to say that you're obviously a producer with the incredible One America News Network as well. I know this podcast is completely independent of that, but again, thank you for giving me the honor and opportunity to interview with you. Before I begin, I just want to say this: the screen on my device has changed, and am I still visible completely with the two U.S. flags on my hat still on display?
It's going to go back and forth. I'm adjusting so I can put it back on the two screen.
No, you can do it either way. So I just wanted to make sure the flags that are on my hat are completely visible on the screen. I love the United States of America. I love the red, white, and blue, and so that's the only reason why I asked you that question.
If I can see it on this tiny little screen.
All right, dude. Thank you. So let me say this. I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I know this is about a 30-minute interview. I want to give you as much time as possible to ask me any question you want, open book. Let me quickly say this to all the great viewers and listeners, hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people listening in. My name is Gary Barve, and I'm officially running for the 48th presidency of the United States of America as a Republican and as a believer in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. For a lot of people listening in, I have massive name recognition across the United States of America. I say that humbly, or perhaps not so humbly, but I will say this. I used to be the most loyal Trump supporter in the United States of America. I literally risked my life for Donald Trump. And I can go on and on and on about this, but since we have about 30 seconds for me to give this quick introduction, I will say this. I am now politically against Donald Trump. I did an interview with the PAA podcast a few days back, February 27, 2026, with a great American veteran and a great American trucker. And I gave my opinion, and I will say that spilled the beans on the corruption in the White House, in my opinion, how I have been unequivocally suppressed by the Pussycat Trump administration. I will say this: I, Gary Barve, am ready to take a bullet for our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people. I probably will take a bullet for our country.
So what do you mean by that when you say that? When you say you've been, I forget the phrase.
That's all right. I will complete. Fantastic, Chris. Let me say this. I can give you example after example after example, but I'll make it quick. My main request is go to the PAA podcast interview. It's an 80-minute live interview that I did. I will try and paraphrase it in the next minute or two, the contents of that interview, and I will add one detail as well to it. And so, look, Donald has met me only once. On December 2nd, 2022, I was his most loyal supporter in the United States of America. I risked my life for him. I have been, since my announcement for the presidential candidacy, I have been hit by cars, vehicles, rear-ended twice. And I've been in 3 car accidents since my announcement for the presidential campaign, which I announced on September 5th, 2024. I have fought against MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel gang members patriotically for our country, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, with no Secret Service protection, no personal security protection. And the White House has done nothing about the car accidents I've been in, and also, in my opinion, not all these car accidents were happenstance, meaning some of them, or at least one of them, were on purpose. And I can go on and on and on about how I've been suppressed. But do you mind if I unequivocally, in my opinion, my friend, prove how the suppression has happened. And I will end it with this. I don't want to make this podcast interview about me. Let me say this. I love the United States of America. I am for the United States of America more than I dislike or detest Donald Trump. And I am a Republican. I love the country. I am the America First candidate for the 40th presidency of the United States of America. But if you want to ask me a follow-up question with regards to what's personally happened to me, in my opinion, because of the current corrupt White House administration, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me, my friend.
I just want to clarify. Are you accusing the White House of ignoring things that are potential death threats against you, or orchestrating? Just clarify between one or the other, because I do want to move on to something else. We'll come back to this, but I do want to move on.
All I'm saying. Sorry, go on.
What are you accusing them of? I just want to be very clear about the accusations.
So, I think accusations is a word that you are using. I'm not necessarily using that word. Neither have I used that word. All I'm saying is I'm presenting my case to the American people. And I am saying let the American people decide. It is my opinion that the 3 accidents that I talked about, the car accidents that I talked about, not all of them, I said not all of them are happenstance, meaning, just to clarify what I said, at least one of them, in my opinion, was done on purpose, the rear-ended hitch that I had on my car.
And when you say on purpose, you mean by by liberal protesters, or by someone?
I'm not going to make a definitive conclusion. Sorry, go on. Complete your line of thought, my friend.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to understand. It's like, okay, so you believe this was orchestrated against you intentionally. This was not an accident. So I'm just saying, do you believe you know who is behind that accident?
All I'm saying is, look, I respect the fact that, look, I believe in the freedom of press. You should ask me whatever question you want, open book. But at the same time, I believe in my freedom of speech. It is politically inappropriate or politically inastute for me to make a more elaborate statement on this at this time. I'm not going to make it, at least at this time. What I am saying, I just want to clarify what I'm saying is that I have been involved in 3 car accidents since September 5th, 2024, which is when I announced my presidential campaign officially, filing the paperwork with the FEC. And since then, I have been in 2 rear-ended car accidents, meaning I was driving my car, someone came in from behind and gave me a hard hit on my vehicle rear of the vehicle. And let me say this, dude, the second time there was a little bit of an injury to me as well. The second hard hit, there was a little bit of an injury to me as well. And the White House has paid no attention to this. And look, this is a quick interview, right? So that is why I'm saying, if you look at the PAA podcast interview with the veteran, great American trucker, it will give you complete context to what I'm saying.
I'm curious because of the way you said that you believed it was not an accident. So I'm just asking you. No, I said it is an accident. I said I was in 3 car accidents. I said at least one of them was on purpose, in my opinion. I'm talking about the one that you said you believe was not an accident. I'm asking you if you believe you have any idea of who may have orchestrated or perpetrated that. That's all I'm asking. If you don't want to answer that, that's fine.
No, I want to answer that, and I am answering that.
Accusations.
No, yeah, Chris. No, I think it's a very valid question, my friend. It's a very valid question you ask. All I'm saying is, my answer to your question, very simply, is exactly what I just said, and I'm going to let the American people decide. Look, this is going to play out in the media over the next few days, weeks, and months. I guarantee it. And I will say this, Chris, let me say this. I said this on the PA podcast as well. I'll make it real quick. There are 5 things that I consider very seriously before politically attacking someone on the political stage, right? I'm giving an analogy. The first thing is this. Is the political attack that I'm making on the media, obviously in this case, is it right and correct in the eyes of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior? And I say that as a Christian, as a believer in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I respect all religions, but I am Christian. Second, when the political attack that I make, is it within the bounds of law and order? That's the second point. The third point is, will I win that political attack argument in the public sphere, which is in the media? Fourth point is, will I win that argument in the court of law, if it goes to that? And the fifth point is this, very simply, a sense of timing. Do I have a sense of timing on when to make that political attack? And I can give you an analogy of a great American sniper, and I'll give you a quick analogy. The analogy is very simply this. Let me ask you this, Chris. I don't know your background. You're obviously a very famous media personality, but I don't know if you're a veteran or. No, you are. You are. I've seen some of your work, and so let me say this. Let me ask you a question. If hypothetical analogy example, if you're a great American sniper, and if you are on a mission for the United States of America, it's a hypothetical, metaphorical analogy example I'm giving. When will you pull the trigger, metaphorically speaking, proverbially speaking, on the target, if you're an American military sniper personnel?
At the right moment. At the right moment. So, to your point, though, is I wouldn't, as a sniper, allude to something and then say, oh wait, I'm not going to say exactly what I mean to here. I'm going to let people speculate about it, which is essentially kind of what you're doing by saying, I don't think it was an accident, but I'm not going to say who I think was involved.
So I will say two things to that, my friend Chris.
Right to express those opinions without, being worried about, defamatory action to express your own beliefs. Now, again, that's up to you. That's up to you.
Fantastic. So let me respond to what you just said by saying two quick things. We'll move to the next topic. If you want to, I'm happy to talk about this as well. The first thing I will say is I'm not worried about anything. That's not what I said. And I'm not worried about it. I'm just strategically making the political attack at the right time.
Yeah.
The second thing I want to address your situation is when you said that in the sniper analogy example, you would not go into speculation. This is not a perfect analogy. The analogy I was trying to make is you have to have a sense of timing. That is the analogy I was trying to make. It's not a perfect. Right. It's an analogy because it's not a perfect example.
The person framing that they're making any kind of that they're up in the crow's nest at all. They would not say a word about it until the timing was right. So obviously you have said something about it, but now you won't completely address it. And if you don't want to give me an answer as to who you think was behind this car accident, that's fine. We can move on to the next question.
We can move on to the next question. I'm happy to do that, my friend. The only correction or the only sort of clarification I'm giving to what you said is that the sniper example that I just gave you is an analogy. It's not a perfect analogy where every situation in the sniper example is applicable to this political battle that I'm in. I'm just saying through that example.
But you made comments about something that people would be very interested in.
I would hope so. I would hope people are very interested in.
And then you kind of backed off and said, well, I'm not going to. It's about timing and it's about this and it's about that. But you still you alluded to it and then said, let's just move on.
No, I said if you want to move on, we'll move on. I'm happy to talk about this topic for the entirety of the conversation. If you want to, it's your show.
I've asked you one question, which is, who are you alluding to when you say that? And
when I say what? Repeat the question. Look, let me say this. I just want to clarify to the viewers that it's your question that I'm answering. I want to make this entire interview about the United States of America and how I will serve our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people.
But you asked me for time to make a statement at the beginning of the interview, which I did.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And you made a comment, something that was very jarring to me.
Thank you.
Saying that you believe that someone was intentionally trying to basically ram you from behind with a car. That you didn't say it in those exact words, but that's essentially what you alluded to. That's what any reasonable person would think. And so my question to you, and it remains the same, is who are you alluding to when you say this was not an accident?
Well, let me. You keep saying. Chris, let me say this. You keep
talking about someone else.
Chris, let me complete my line of thought, right? Look, you keep saying that I'm saying it's not an accident. I never said that. I said I was involved in 3 car accidents. What I said was that of the 3 car accidents that I have been involved in since September 5th, 2024, that's not what I said. I said, in my opinion, at least one of them one of those 3-car accidents or the hard hits.
At least one. So
At least one. Well, let me complete my line of thought. At least one of those 3-car accidents were not happenstance, and maybe I'm not getting the exact meaning of the word happenstance, so I'll elaborate and make sure everyone understands. At least one of those 3-car accidents where someone rear-ended me, or the 3-car accidents in total, at least one of them, in my opinion, was done to me on purpose, is what I'm saying. And I do not want to make an additional comment on this at this time. I want to see how this plays out, and the reason for this is manifold. But because we have a 30-minute interview, my friend, and not a 80-minute interview that I did with the PAA podcast, it is extremely difficult for me to answer the question in its entirety. So let me complete my line of thought, my friend. All I'm saying is, if people want more clarification on this particular topic, please go to the PAA podcast interview that I did with the great American veteran, with the great American trucker, and you will get a much better insightful look at what I am saying right now from the perspective of an understanding of where I'm coming from this particular issue. Because me repeating the same thing on every show usually will not make a lot of sense. And I want to talk about the United States of America. Dude, I love the country. I have fought against MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel.
You want the highest office in the land. You are seeking the highest office in the land, and so I think it's reasonable to ask you a question on something that you made a very specific allusion to. And I don't think a follow-up is unwarranted.
I completely agree with you. The follow-up was not warranted, my friend. It is completely okay for you to follow up. I'm just going to stick to my answer at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you do not want to tell. You do not want to. So just so I'm clarifying, you do not want to illuminate us any further on what your beliefs are as to who was behind what you believe were intentional, at least one intentional of the 3 car accidents that you suffered. Okay, so let's work.
At this time, I'm sticking to the statements I've made during this interview, and you can ask me whatever question you want, my friend.
Awesome.
Open book.
The current administration promised that we would get 1 million deportations every single year. We haven't gotten that. That was obviously a very, very, ambitious goal, and I don't fault President Trump for not meeting it. But do you think the Trump administration is doing enough in terms of mass deportations? And what could they be doing? What advice would you give the president?
Well, not just advice. When I become the 48th President of the United States of America, I will actually implement what I'm going to say. So let me say this. The answer to your question is no. Pussycat Trump or Donald Trump is not doing anywhere near what must be done to get the campaign promise that he made, where he said all illegal immigrants in the United States of America will be sent back to their country of origin immediately. He's not doing that at all. In fact, he went on stage a few days back or a few weeks back, whatever it is, and said that now Donald wants to only send the illegal immigrants who are criminally charged or criminally charged illegal immigrants back to their country of origin. The rest he seems to be fine with. Now let me say this. Chris, my friend, how many illegal immigrants came into our country illegally under the dumb as a rock Kamala and crooked Joe Biden administration? Close to 20 million, right? Donald used to say that all the time.
Yeah, that's at least the official number.
Okay, so let's say it's 20 million illegal immigrants crossed across the southern border into our great United States of America illegally, hurting and harming our American people. I mean, you look at Jocelyn Nungary, you look at the horrific situation that happened in Colorado with the Tren de Aragua gang members. So many bad things happened, and 20 million is a fair number to assume in this case. Now, of the criminally charged ones, there's about 20,000 illegal immigrants, which is a lot, but it's a small percentage of the 20 million illegal immigrants that have come into our country. Look, let me say this, in my opinion, and I can go point by point on this, when you look at the tariff situation, Donald Trump has purposefully, in my opinion, economically starved our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people who are literally struggling to put food on the table for their friends and families, pay rent for their apartments.
Why do you think it's intentional?
Well, let me say this. I'll give you a perfect example of this tariff situation, right? So Donald has been going about, and I've said this on a few shows, but Donald has been going about town, my friend Chris, telling people that he brought in $19 trillion from other countries in the form of tariffs and other revenues. 19 trillion with a T. Now the reality is this: of this $19 trillion, a portion of it being associated with tariff revenue, only 250 billion with a B dollars have actually realized into the government of the United States of America from other countries through these tariffs. And do you know how much of this 250 billion with the B dollars has actually gone back to the American people, hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people, and how much of it is actually just sitting in the White House government, in the Donald Trump government? Because look, the answer is just about $0 has gone back to the American people. Because look, my friend Chris, I understand tariffs beautifully. And the reality is, when you impose tariffs on 180 countries across the world, like Donald did on, April 2025, just about a year back, there are massive ripple effects to that in the economy from the perspective of our rural Americans, urban Americans, hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people who are working 3 jobs sometimes to make a living. And they, as a result of these tariffs being imposed, face the burden of the tariffs. They face the negatives of the tariffs. The hardworking, patriotic American people get the negative effects of the tariffs. But when the money actually comes into the government of the United States of America because of these tariff policies, what is Donald doing with that money? It's with the government of the United States of America, wasted in a certain way, if you look at it in a certain way, in the sense that that money is not going to the American people in the form of checks or dividends. Now, why would Donald do that? You tell me.
He has offered, relief checks, certain things to try to, to quell the relief that Americans are feeling.
Okay, so your justification. Sorry, go on.
I agree. No, you're
okay.
pushback on me that Donald Trump, that Americans, hardworking Americans, are working paycheck to paycheck and can't afford rent and are having to dip into their savings and are having to max out the credit cards. That's still true, but he was given an economy that was on life support. To his credit, but I want to ask you specifically about beyond rhetoric. What specifically in your background do you think qualifies you, makes you the right person to kind of, be able to finagle the vast federal bureaucracy that many people argue is simply ungovernable based on how big it is?
So it's
because you have entrenched people at the State Department, in the FBI, you name the agency. There are always people holdovers from other administrations, because typically administrations don't come in and fire every single individual working at the State Department and hire somebody new, because the staffing holdover would be, a nightmare. And so, we have Obama holdovers, we have Biden holdovers, and things like that. So I guess my question is what specifically, sets you apart from?
Let me answer the question in this way. The first thing I'll say is, the number one quality that I have is that to the best of my ability, I always try and make decisions that are right and correct in the eyes of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I really, really firmly believe in it. And the second thing I'm going to say is, look, you're talking about previous administration's corruption. There's no doubt that the Biden-Kamala administration was corrupt to the core. 20 million illegal immigrants coming into our country. You see the visuals of our great American army personnel being literally, having to face like so many illegal immigrants at the border. It was that, which video I'm talking about. These guys were pathetic. Kamala, Biden, they were pathetic people. But you look at what Pete Hegseth, you look at who is literally, I hate that guy. And I'll talk about them as potential 2028 election opponents. Take it however you want to take it. Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. These are all ridiculous, pathetic people. And I just gave you one example, right, my friend, about the tariff situation, right? We can talk about the Epstein files. Women, innocent women, have been raped by some powerful, ridiculous people.
I think Marco Rubio is far from pathetic or stupid or anything like that. I think he's done some pretty incredible work in regards to foreign policy.
I would say
he was able to negotiate what happened today. What happened today, the first negotiations between Israel and Lebanon face to face in Washington D.C. for the first time in over 40 years. Given we shouldn't be here in the first place, because I am against this war.
I am against the Iran war that Donald has waged. By the way, it's Israel's war, it's not America's war. Let me say this. I just want to quickly say this. 13 or more patriotic American army personnel have lost their lives in this war, that is Israel's war. Hundreds have been injured. And this is not America's war. I say that definitively. And to come back to the point that you were making, my friend Chris, about Rubio,
Whose war is it?
The Iran war is not America's war, it's Israel's war. It's not America's war. America should not be sending troops there. It's not America's war at all. The Iran war is not America's war. And let me say this. I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to first pivot back to what you said about Marco Rubio. This entire administration is collectively responsible for the Epstein file situation. I'm talking about the current Pussycat Trump White House administration. The entire administration is responsible for the tariff decision, which I definitively, in my opinion, proved that Donald, this purpose, who is a billionaire, $9 billion, $10 billion net worth, which I have nothing against his billionaire status. But Donald has economically starved our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people by not giving them the tariff money. He's sitting on it in the White House. Epstein files, like I said, women have been raped by some ridiculous, pathetic people who, in the earthly basis, are so-called powerful people. These are evil people who, in my opinion, have the proverbial purse strings attached to Donald's trousers. And that is why none of the Epstein files people who were corruptly and illegally raping these innocent young women have been brought to justice just about. And then I will go on and say this. I'm going to complete my answer because I'm going to give you a perfect answer to this almost.
I agree with you on the lack of accountability on the Epstein files, but I think that can be laid at the feet of, yes, Donald Trump, but two people really. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. I don't think you can really blame Marco Rubio. That's not his turf. Yes. That's like blaming, if you want to blame everybody in the administration, you got to blame RFK, you got to blame it. It's like, it's not their purview.
Well, let me respond to that.
They would like for the files. I don't see any reason why Marco Rubio.
I'm going to make a statement right now. I'm going to.
Member or Pete Hegseth wouldn't want the Epstein files released. I know we found out that one member of Trump's administration, Les Wexner, was listed as a co-conspirator in the Epstein files, which was horrific and disgusting. And I really wish that the administration would release the files in their entirety, unredacted.
Except if national security is at risk. I will say, look, let me respond to what you just said, my friend. So,
what does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean? Because
great question. Great question.
I saw your video on X. What does that mean? Does that mean that our CIA looks bad for having covered up for a pedophile, and that might result in a mass, revolt from the entire country, which is, I guess, possible. But is that within the realm of national security? Because that's like the only, I guess, conceivable way I can think of without there being a cover-up that there would be any reason other than that national security would be in jeopardy.
So let me answer your question. Look, the reality of the matter is this. Because I have fought against MS-13, Trente Aragua Sinaloa cartel as the most courageous person on the planet on the political stage, because I'm glorifying Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior with an intensity that is unmatched on the 2028 presidential election political stage, because I have been hit by cars and I'm still fighting for our country. Wait, Chris, my friend, let me complete my line of thought. Chris, my friend, see, if we jump from topic to topic without me actually addressing your question, how does that make sense, dude?
Christ-loving person. I mean, you've got pretty devoted Christians and Catholics.
I did not say that there are not devoted Christians and Catholics. That was not my statement. Look, let me say this.
You're the most devoted.
I did not say that. You go back and listen to what I just said. I said I'm glorifying Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior on the political stage with an intensity that is unmatched relative to every 2028 presidential election opponent. That's my opinion. And the point I was trying to get at, my friend Chris, is because of this and so many other things that I've done over the last few years, year and a half since I announced my presidential candidate, the reality of the matter is this. I have the trust, TRUST, the trust of a large majority of our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people. And the reality is, when I say that I, with just about $0 in my campaign bank account, having fought fearlessly MS-13, Trente Aragua Sinaloa cartel with no personal security protection, and being hit by cars, and going from state to state, media organization to media organization, interviewing with 50 media networks across the country, when I do this, I prove to the people that I'm fighting for you, our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people. I am not here to make backroom deals. I will not make backroom deals. And the reality is, there is no compromise when it comes to that flag, the United States of America flag, with me as the 48th President of the United States of America. And the difference between me saying this and Donald saying this, or Rubio saying this, or Vance saying this, or Hexet saying this, or Noem saying this, or Gabbard saying this, is that the people believe me. That is my opinion, and in my opinion, that is the truth.
Yeah, polling that reflects that.
Okay, so let me say this. You're talking about polling, right? So let me say this. Polls...
No, I don't have any...
No, I'm not saying you're taking a position on this. You're just asking me a question.
Already winning the 2016 election, so polls could be wrong, but I'm just...
Okay, so let me say... No, look, dude.
Any insightful data.
Okay, so let me say this. I'm going to say two things to this. The first thing I'm going to say is this. This is, by the way, it's a Chrisinformation Podcast, which is also a pop culture podcast a little bit, right? So I'm going to say this. And I'm going to tie it to the answer. Just let me complete what I have to say so that it makes complete sense, all right? So look, I am now a musician, and I will say it quite confidently, I am a very, very successful musician, and I will prove it to you right now.
I've heard your work. It's great work.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so look, I went to a recording studio in Iowa and started recording cover songs, right? I did Ed Sheeran, Enrique Iglesias, and many other songs. Elvis Presley, I love Elvis Presley. I gotta say this. Elvis Presley is the one and only king of music and the American music legend. And I covered his song, Can't Help Falling in Love. Beautiful song. And then I also covered Lonely, which is obviously a Justin Bieber song. And let me say this, I do not agree with every political position that the artist whose song I cover has, but they're great artists, they're great creative people, great musicians, and so I respect them for that. But my point is this, I'm working with one of the most prominent personalities in the music industry, DJ Rampage, his name is Roger McNair, who has worked with Mariah Carey, Alicia Keys, Flava Flav, Busta Rhymes, a lot of people, very, very prominent guy. And he sent my cover song Lonely, and then my cover song Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis Presley cover song, to about 5,000 radio stations, mainly in the United States of America, but also across the world. Lonely was sent about 6 weeks back. My cover song Lonely was sent about 6 weeks back. My friend Chris, that my cover song Lonely has been played on radio stations, mainly in the US, also in England, Canada, and Germany, more than or just about 6,000 times on different radio stations, with a viewership or a listenership of about 15 million people. These are official, verifiable DRT, digital radio tracker numbers. I can get reports, I have reports, but I can get more reports with the actual timestamp of when a particular song, in this case my song Lonely or Can't Help Falling in Love, was played on which radio station at what time. And so these are verifiable numbers. And Can't Help Falling in Love is seeing massive success as well. And my third song, Love Heartbeat, which is the original song that I've sung, and it's going to the radio stations very soon as well, for the radio stations consideration for airplay on the radio stations. The point I'm trying to make is this. If you look at my Spotify account, you know what Spotify is, right? Like the app, the music streaming app. One of the biggest music streaming apps in the world. They have about 30% market share, 40% market share in the United States of America. If you go to my profile page, do it right now if you want. Go to my profile page. My artist name is Gary Barve for USA President. You will see that the monthly listeners on my profile page, all songs put together, monthly listenership is about 60 people per month, which amounts to about 2 people per day listening to my songs, while my songs have been played 6,000 times on some of the most prominent radio stations in the United States of America, with 15 million people listening in live, verifiable numbers. And so I went on a lot of shows with about 2 million people listening in on Joe Thomas's show and Dan the Oxner's show with hundreds of thousands of people listening in. And I said, if 15 million people have listened to my song and love my song because the radio stations are playing it again and again, why would they play it if the song was not really well received by the people? Like, I go to the bars here in Nashville, Tennessee. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. People say my songs are off the charts. I'll give you some inside detail. I actually had a meeting with Elvis Presley's team recently, and I'm not going to give more details on what could happen, but I might be actually potentially singing at Elvis Live or Graceland Live. I'm a beautiful singer, believe it or not. And the reality is,
you've got a great set of pipes.
Thank you. So what I'm saying, my friend, is if 15 million people have listened to my song on the radio in 6 weeks or 5 weeks, how is it possible that there are only 2 daily Spotify listeners on my profile? In my opinion, and I can back this up with so many other data points, not just from a policy perspective that we just did, tariffs, Epstein files, TSA employees not paid for 30 days, so many other things. Put it all together and realize this: I am being, in my opinion, suppressed by the current Donald J. Trump White House. Donald has met me only once. I'll risk my life for Donald Trump. I am the most courageous person on the planet on the political stage, and I'll complete my line of thought with this. The PAA podcast that I did, where I, in my opinion, spilled the beans on the corruption in the Donald J. Trump, or the pussycat Donald J. Trump White House, was done when? I said it earlier on, I think in the interview. It was February 27th, 2026, at about midnight or 11 p.m. New York time. And Donald, from what I've read, waged the war against Iran immediately, few hours after that broadcast with the live interview with the great American veteran and the great American trucker ended. I'm not making a conclusion on it. I'm just stating a fact. The American people can decide what they want to decide. What I'm saying, everything I've said is the truth, and it's verifiable. Look at my media and you will see the live broadcast there.
And by the way, congratulations on the success that you've had with your songs.
Thank you, my friend.
It's awesome, and I do encourage people to go check out your Spotify page.
Thank you.
But how does that necessarily translate to getting people to vote for you to be president of the United States? Because people don't vote for president based off of whether or not they like someone's music, at least I hope.
So you're asking from the, great question. So you're asking from the perspective of the suppression that I'm saying is, in my opinion, done by the White House. You're saying, why would the White House suppress my actual count on the Spotify, which I think is obvious it's being suppressed. Why would they do it if it's not going to affect my presidential campaign? Let me say it this way. Whenever a candidate for office, you block that success trajectory of that candidate for office, it's obstruction of the presidential candidacy, and my social life also gets affected by it.
No, I can see that, but
okay.
You said that you believed that you had, I don't want to quote how many Americans you said, but you had a lot of patriots support, and I don't see how, again, I congratulate you on the success of your music, and I think
thank you.
do like your music, and that's why they're listening to it, but I don't think that necessarily translates to they want you to be president.
Okay, so great question, my friend. So again, I think there's some miscommunication here. I'm not saying that I have large support in the United States of America for my 2028 presidential election campaign because my music has become popular. I'm saying I have large support in the United States of America for the 2028 presidential election from the hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people, not the corrupt bureaucrat, not the corrupt people in the White House, not the corrupt politician who are concerned about their own power. And when I come in as the most courageous person on the planet on the political stage, a complete outsider, so to speak, and completely dominate this 2028 presidential election with not a lot of money, I'm not a rich guy, I have hardly any money in my campaign, they get, in my opinion, a little bit not happy about it, the elected officials. But the people, because the elected officials want their own power. The people, the hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people, Republican people, conservative people, and to be very honest, my friend Chris, people across the political spectrum in the United States of America, large majority of them, just about every one of them, what they want is very simply to keep America first. Someone who will actually fight for them and not for the corrupt bureaucracy in the United States of America. And because I have done about 50 media networks in the United States of America with shows that have 2 million people listening in into the episode that I'm doing, that message has gone to the American people.
The recording stopped for a second. Let me see why that happened. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Is the recording started again?
Yes, yeah, you're back.
So what point did the recording stop so that I know where to continue?
About like 15 seconds ago.
Okay, so what I was essentially saying was that I'm fighting for the hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people. The people who are not the elected officials or the bureaucrats, the corrupt elected officials, I should say, or the corrupt bureaucrats. And let me say this, there are people in US Congress, US Senate who are patriotic people. But there is a lot of corruption in US Congress and US Senate, I'll say, obviously on the Democrat elected official side, but also on the GOP Republican side. And so the point I'm trying to make is,
it's a uniparty.
So what I'm trying to say, my friend, is, look, not only have the music is there, obviously, you talked about the success is there for everyone to see, the numbers are obvious. But what I'm trying to say, my friend, is that I've interviewed with about 50 media networks across the United States of America, with some of the shows having 2 million listeners on the episode that I've actually done. And the message has gone to the American people, Republican American people, constituents I'm talking about, from other political parties as well. Many of them have realized that I am the one who is actually fighting for you, our hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people, suffering tremendously at a personal level, which you will find out if you see the PAA podcast interview that I did with the Great American Veteran and that I did with the Great American Trucker. And if you find that out on February 27, 2026. So the answer, let me complete my line of thought, my friend Chris, in the next 10 seconds. Next 10 seconds, let me complete my line of thought. So the answer to your question is, the polling you talked about, right? You're saying on what basis am I saying there's huge support in the United States of America for my presidential campaign? There are multiple answers to this, but you said, where is the polling, you said, right? Isn't that what you asked?
Or polling or any citable data.
So I will talk about the polling right now. A lot of polls are designed to influence elections. I'll give you an example. A few days prior. Okay, so you know that, right? So
you have to tell me about the dishonesty of polling and about how it can be weighted and more. You don't trust me. I know all about that, but I was just curious if you had any citable data to just and you cited some things from Spotify, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let me extrapolate. Okay. Continue.
You said multiple times that Trent, you've been I don't want to misquote you, but basically you fought fearlessly against Trent Aaron, were at great risk to your own life. Am I misquoting you there?
Those are not my exact words, but look, you're asking me two questions at the same time, right? So how do I answer it? Two questions at the same time is tough.
Hold on. Sorry, the recording, I don't know why that keeps happening.
Okay.
It's okay, I'll stitch it together and when I...
Let me know when the recording starts. remarks again for the video interview.
Yeah, I will. Just 1 second.
No worries, it's all right.
Okay, that's one. Alright, should be good. Alright, I'm gonna start the recording in 3, 2, well, I'll just ask the question all over again.
Okay, so the recording just stopped, but we're gonna do the same question again. So ask me whatever you want, and I'll answer it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna re-ask the question, and
okay.
I'll just edit the first question out.
All right.
You referred several times to, and I don't want to misquote you, but basically that you have risked your life to fight Tren de Aragua and other MS-13 gangs of that nature.
On the political stage, yes.
On the political stage.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't mean physically. Well, I was just clarifying what you meant by you said risk your life. You're saying politically by being outspoken against them. Is what you're saying.
Okay, so let me answer your question, and I want to answer your previous question as well, because you did ask me before the recording unfortunately stopped. You asked me what data I have from the perspective of my statement where I said I have huge support across the United States of America for the 2028 presidential election. I want to address that question that you asked me as well. And then I also want to answer the second question that you have asked me, which is the MS-13 Tren de Aragua Sinaloa cartel gang members that I have been extremely outspoken again with no personal security protection, no secret service protection. Let me answer this second question first, and then I'll go back to the first question, all right? And so let me say this. If you see some of my media interviews, no one in the United States of America, and to be very honest across the world, but in the United States of America, has had the rhetoric against these MS-13 Tren de Aragua Sinaloa cartel gang members anywhere close to the rhetoric that I have. I mean, Pussycat Donald does not have the balls or the courage to fight these MS-13 Tren de Aragua Sinaloa cartel gang members at a fraction of the level of courage that I have. Neither does J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, or any of these other people.
Give me examples of the courage.
Okay, so let me say this. Okay.
You have tremendous courage.
Okay, so let me say this.
Everyone has spoken out. Like, I've spoken out against Tren de Aragua.
I'm not saying that people have not spoken out against them. What I'm saying is my rhetoric has been more courageous and stronger, not just in my eyes, but in the eyes of a large majority of the American people. I will answer your question, but you gotta let me complete my line of thought, dude. So let me say this. Okay, so you want proof, right? I will give it to you right now. So look, under the previous dumb as a rock Kamala and crooked Joe Biden administration, there were about 20 million illegal immigrants that crossed across the southern border into the United States of America illegally, bringing in tremendous crime, drugs such as fentanyl. And there were these gangs that came into our country. I'm sure you've heard about this gang, like you said, Tren de Aragua, right? And you know, my friend Chris, when I heard about this gang Tren de Aragua for the first time, I said, what a stupid name for a gang, right? Who names their gang Tren de Aragua? It's a stupid gang, and it's a stupid gang name, but it's a vicious gang. They literally took over a complete building in Colorado, and there's another gang, MS-13, that's come into our country. These are bad, evil, awful, pathetic, vicious people that literally cut people up just for fun. American people, they cut American people just for fun. And you know, I had the great honor, my friend Chris, of visiting the United States of America southern border in the great state of Arizona with some great American law enforcement officers, and heard about some other gang names, right? The Sinaloa cartel. And you know, some people said to me, Gary, it's not the Sinaloa cartel, it's the Sinaloa cartel. I said, who the hell cares? These are bad people. And so on the incredible Chrisinformation Podcast, my direct message to MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel gang members is get the hell out of our great United States of America. If you don't, we will incarcerate members of your gangs, or I, Gary Barve, as the 48th President of the United States of America, will kick members of these gangs out of our country. My friend Chris, I'm ready to take a bullet for you. I'm ready to take a bullet for our American people. And I will say this, law and order, in my opinion, is the very fabric that keeps our country the greatest country in the world, along with many other reasons, such as American exceptionalism, American patriotism, and the personality that our great American people have. These are some of the reasons why America is and always will be the greatest country in the world. And I say this because I'm saying that law and order is what keeps these gang members out of our country. Police, sheriffs, ICE, military, veterans, firefighters, first responders. These are incredible. The patriotic people in these groups, which is about 99% of people in these groups, are incredible people who risk their life for our country, while Donald is not risking his life for our country in that way. And instead what he's doing is he's waging a war against Iran, sending our troops for a war that is not America's war.
Donald Trump took a bullet for our country.
I completely agree with you on that. I completely agree with you on that. Let me say this. I love the United States of America more than I dislike, detest, and hate Donald Trump. And he did take a bullet for our country. I'm talking about July 13, 2024, the horrific assassination attempt against Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. I completely agree with you on that. The point I was trying to make when I said what I said was that this war against Iran is not America's war, it's Israel's war. And whose troops are dying? The 13 great American patriotic American army people, army personnel, they died. It's not America's war. Hundreds have been injured. This is not America's war, and like I said, these are some of the reasons why I say I am the strongest, most courageous person on the planet on the political stage. Because I'm going to ask you a question, Chris. It's a conversation, right? Let me ask you this. I just gave you the rhetoric. I talked against MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel gang members. Have you heard this kind of strong patriotic rhetoric from any elected official in the United States of America? You tell me. I know it's subjective, but you tell me who. Give me a name. I want to know a name from you.
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance is a doofus and a docile cheeks beta male. I want you to do this, my friend. Send me a video of J.D. Vance fighting against MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel gang members in the way that I've done. Huh?
Someone who grew up in the environment that he did and was able to have the life that he had. I mean, that he is far from the things that you just described him as. He is an incredible individual, and I mean, I don't think you need to put down people in such a demeaning way in order to promote yourself, and I think that's what you tend to be doing a little bit.
I would say this, dude, my friend Chris.
Just as someone who has seen a lot of people who are running for office come and go, that you might want to tone it down a little bit with people who are actually genuinely good people.
Okay,
and
well, let me say this.
That I agree with all the decisions that J.D. Vance has made, but to say all the things that you just said about him, I find to be completely untrue, and I personally like J.D. Vance very much. I admire his character, and I think there are other members of Trump's administration who have been extremely outspoken.
Okay, so let me
say everything you want
Chris.
about Tren de Aragua, about MS-13, but that doesn't make you more courageous than they are, because they have said the same things.
They have not said the same things. Okay, Chris, now you gotta let me respond, dude.
At the world stage and actually are real targets. MS-13.
Do you mind if I
don't know who you are?
That's your opinion. Do you mind if I respond? That's your opinion. Do you mind if I respond to what you just said, my friend?
Sure.
Okay, so let me say this. The number one thing I will ask you to do is send me a video where J.D. Vance is fighting against MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa cartel gang members, and I'm doing this without the Secret Service protection that he has, by the way, and you will not find a video where he has said anywhere close to the things I said against MS-13, Tren de Aragua and Sinaloa cartel gang members, because he does not have the balls or the courage to do it. The second thing, let me complete my line of thought. I'll let you complete your thought, my friend. You said, okay, your opinion is that I should tone down the rhetoric from the perspective of certain political attacks or certain type of political attacks against some of my 2028 presidential election opponents. I completely respect your opinion on this, but we have a complete difference of opinion on this. I will completely and thoroughly politically decimate every opponent who runs against me in the 2028 presidential election cycle. And maybe some people like the way I campaign and way I politically hit hard some of my political opponents, and some people may not like it. The reality is, a large majority of the United States of America constituents, in my opinion, are with me. And I'm going to answer the first part of the question that you asked me, which I did not get to answer because we pivoted to another line of conversation, which is fine. So I'm going to answer the question where you said, Gary, on what basis are you saying that you have a lot of support across the United States of America, right? That was the question. I'm going to answer it in this way. I talked about the suppression that, in my opinion, the current White House has done with regards to the music, right? It's proof, definitive proof, in my opinion. DRT, digital radio tracker numbers, which are industry standard numbers. Everyone in the music industry, I just about should agree to that, say with timestamps of when the song has played on the different radio stations, about 6,000 to 7,000 times on different radio stations, with about 15 million people listening in. Definitive report numbers, all of these are, which I can prove. And my Spotify account has 2 listeners per day. That is, in my opinion, a clear definition of suppression, in my opinion, by the current White House administration, the pussycat Donald Trump administration. Well, no, look, you're not letting me complete the punchline here, and the people don't understand what I'm saying when you do that. So my point is, okay, thank you. So my point is, this particular suppression, if you extrapolate it to the social media accounts that I have, for example, to the fact that some of my videos on social media, even though I've done 50 media interviews across the country, have like 10 views or 20 views. Now let me say this, that are displayed on the social media, YouTube videos or whatever it is. Now let me ask you this. Would the FBI or the CIA, if they wanted to just change the numbers on it and do 5 views instead of 5 million views, I'm taking a hypothetical example, isn't it possible for Pete Hegseth or the FBI in this case, or CIA, or whoever it is, to manipulate those numbers without the social media organizations even knowing about it? And I gave you an example. DJ Rampage did send that song, 2 songs, Lonely and Can't Help Falling in Love cover songs. They did get 15 million views or listens in 5 or 6 weeks. It's provable. But Spotify has 2 listeners per day, my profile page. You tell me, Chris, how that is possible. I'm not making a conclusion on this. The American people are deciding on this.
Look, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to discount anything that you're saying. All I'm saying is one doesn't amount to the other. You can have a lot of Spotify views and be very popular as a musician, be loved around the world, but that doesn't mean people will vote for you for president.
So let me ask you, okay, so great point.
It doesn't matter whether or not the current administration is trying to suppress your data because they think you might...
Wait, did you say it does not matter if the current administration is suppressing the data on my social media? Did you say that too?
So that is not citable data to say, I have the American people behind me, or president of the United States. You can say, I have the American people behind me as a musician. Sure, you make that claim. That's verifiable. Absolutely. With that data, that's citable, and that's something that you can say.
So let me...
But you can't make that, I'm sorry, I can't bridge that gap.
Okay, Chris, I understand that you're not able to bridge that gap. Chris, I understand you're not able to bridge that gap, and that's okay, it's your opinion. What I'm saying is that I gave you... Okay, Chris, if you don't let me make my point, my friend, then how is my point going to actually reach you and the people? Let me do this. You complete your...
I've given you over an hour. I've given you an hour.
I really appreciate you, my friend.
This podcast to make, and I was only planning on going for 30 minutes. I've given you over an hour because I'm enjoying our conversation.
Thank you.
But I do have to, I'm gonna when I find something that I just don't find 2 and 2 adding up, I'm going to be upfront about it, and I just don't see how. Again, even if the administration is suppressing your data on Spotify, which I'm not saying they are, and I'm not saying they aren't, regardless of whether or not that is true, and even if you do have the explosive numbers, and I'm sure you do have explosive numbers on the radio and on Spotify because you do great music, that does not translate to people wanting you to be the president of the United States or thinking that you are qualified to be the president of the United States. It doesn't.
All right, can I respond?
It may make you likable, sure, and that's a huge component because, likability is a big factor in being president, but it isn't the only one. And I asked you earlier if you had anything specific in your resume that you could point to that thought you would make you a great candidate. You said your passion for Christ, which I admire, and I respect that, but
done, Chris.
Not you, but
Chris, are you
going to call you out when things don't happen.
I appreciate the fact that you're giving your opinion on things. Now that I've let you completely complete your entire 2-minute question, there are multiple questions in it, will you now let me uninterrupted for the next couple of minutes at least answer the question to the best of my ability?
I'll give you another 2.5 minutes to give me as much time.
Okay, so the first thing I'll say is this. I gave you an example of the Spotify suppression that, in my opinion, the Trump administration has done. The numbers do not add up. 15 million people listen to my song on radio. Radio is playing 6,000 times the song played on radio, the song Lonely, and also Can't Help Falling in Love. 15 million people, provable, listen to it, and there are 2 Spotify listeners per day on my profile page. The numbers do not add up. Now, I want you to do this. In this case, I was able to prove this particular situation of the suppression by the current White House administration because the DRT, digital radio tracker numbers, are there for me to actually pivot and point to that and make this connection. You're not going to interrupt me because otherwise I'm completely misrepresented.
Go ahead.
Okay, you said 2.5 minutes you're going to give me, right? Now what happened to that, dude?
Go ahead.
Okay, so what happens when you do this, my friend Chris, is that the train of thought from the perspective of your listeners listening in gets distracted and I'm not able to get the punchline right. And so if you could please adhere to what you said you would do and give me the 2.5 minutes, I would really appreciate it. And so let me say this. I proved unequivocally that my Spotify account, in my opinion, the Spotify account has been suppressed by the current White House administration. Now, on every occasion, I'm not necessarily going to have pivot points where I can prove definitively that I'm being suppressed by the current White House administration. What I am saying is that if the White House administration has in fact suppressed my Spotify account, why would they do that? One of the reasons is because they want to suppress my presidential campaign and my social life. Everything that I do on a public sphere to a large extent does affect my presidential campaign. And so what I'm trying to say to the American people right now is, if you look at the suppression that I just explained on the Spotify account that has happened, in my opinion, by the Trump administration, the Pussycat Trump administration, on what basis do you now believe that, or think even, that there is no suppression on my YouTube account, that I am actually getting hundreds of thousands of views on videos and not just 1 or 2 videos on my presidential campaign interviews? What makes you now think that Donald Trump would not be suppressing my presidential campaign more directly than indirectly through the Spotify suppression, which I just proved that, in my opinion, we did?
I knew that's the argument that you were going to make. If he can suppress your Spotify, then he can suppress your social media.
No, that is not the argument I just made. That is not the only argument I just made. The argument, there is a slight difference. There is a slight difference.
Exactly what you just said.
That is not what I said, and I will explain it. What I said was, Chris, my friend, what I said was, if the intent from the current White House administration is to suppress a part of my social life that is not directly related to my presidential campaign, which is my music, to, in my opinion, have a negative impact on my presidential campaign, then on what basis do you think that he will not take a more direct approach to suppress my presidential campaign? I am proving to you that my Spotify account has been suppressed. 15 million views would put me on the map. And Donald, in my opinion, does not want that. And you can have your opinion on this. That's completely up to you.
You said you had 15 million radio views.
Radio listeners. So what I would say...
Radio listeners. That's not Spotify listeners, right? That's radio versus Spotify. Those are 2 different things.
What I'm saying is that 15 million listeners listen to my song Lonely, many of them appreciating it, but on Spotify there's 2 listeners per day that displays on the media, on the Spotify channel. How is that possible? You tell me.
I don't.
Does it sound suspicious? Like Elvis Presley's song Suspicious Minds?
It does sound a little weird, but it is a large leap to then say, well, my social media is probably getting suppressed as well, which is basically what you're saying without saying it. Okay, but
okay.
I do.
All right. I think I've made my point pretty well. And there's another way I can demonstrate that I'm being...
time, even though you wouldn't elaborate on something, the point that you made very early on, you wouldn't elaborate on, which I wish you would, but you keep telling people to go to another podcast if they want to hear the real story on you getting into a car accident, and you Gary Barve is running for president of the United States of America in 2028. And Gary, where can people follow you and check out your campaign?
Hey, I want to say this, Chris. I appreciate the intense conversation that you and I had. Look, let me say this, my friend. I really enjoyed the interview with you, and I think it's a great honor for me to get the honor and opportunity to interview with you. And you're obviously a very successful and a prominent guy, and in your own right. And I really appreciate you giving me this platform. No, let me say it very clearly. And the other thing I want to say is, I do not expect the host of every show that I interview with to agree with every position that I make, but I respect the fact that you allowed me this platform to share my viewpoint on it, and we'll let the American people decide. And so I just want to conclude by saying this. You asked me a question where, like my social media and things like that, where people can find me. And so I'll say this, we didn't get to get a complete answer to your question. There are other ways I can say there is massive support for me in the United States of America as well. I just proved to you through correlation, if you would like to call it, in my opinion, that I'm being suppressed by the White House administration. My humble request to all the incredible Chrisinformation Podcast viewers is go to the PAA podcast interview, that's PAA, P as in Peter, A as in America, A as in America, PAA podcast interview that I did on February 27th, 2026. The broadcast of that interview stopped a few minutes or probably maybe 1 or 2 hours prior to Donald declaring war against Iran. That's a fact, from what I've read. And you will get a complete understanding of the fact that Donald, who I risked my life for, who has met me only once on December 2nd, 2022, has, in my opinion, for Donald Trump. I risked my life for Donald Trump. We'll talk about it if you want, but I'm happy to do that if you want to go on for a little while longer. But I will quickly answer your question.
I'm saying, do you mean risk your life like physically, or you mean on the political stage?
Well, I mean on the political stage, but I can give you that. I can give you that 2-minute speech.
I understand.
I mean, let me say this.
We're good.
Okay.
No. I appreciate.
You want my website, right?
I'm giving you a lot of time. I gave you a lot of time to give a lot of answers.
Thank you.
Most of them, which I appreciate. And if your campaign is keeping up for the next few months, we'll be following it. We'll be tracking it.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you back on to talk more.
All right, you can find me Gary Barve. I'll spell my name for your great viewers and listeners, my friend. GaryBarve. And most of your viewers and listeners have already heard about me. Do an internet search. You'll find a lot of information about me, and great honor for me to interview with you. I'll complete it with my campaign slogan. Ladies and gentlemen, hardworking, patriotic, exceptional American people. My campaign slogan is, we have already won and saved America. They just do not know it yet. Vote Gary Barve for the 48th presidency of the United States of America. And I, Gary Barve, will save America. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead.